I accidentally overheard my wife laughing about her affair. She had a hotel booked for our anniversary. I didn't explode. I recorded everything and quietly ended her perfect life. I never meant to hear it. The wine had made Heather careless, her voice carrying from the kitchen as I climbed the stairs. 8 years of marriage, and I'd never heard her laugh like that. "Griffin's working late again," she said into her phone. "Same as always. God, Sutton, I can't wait to see you tomorrow." My hand froze on the banister. Tomorrow was our anniversary. No, he doesn't suspect anything. How could he? Mr. Predictable is too busy with his spreadsheets to notice his wife is dying inside. I pulled out my phone, fingers trembling as I started the voice recorder. The device felt foreign in my hands, but I kept it running. 6 months, and he still thinks I'm working late at the office. Pathetic, really. Sometimes I wonder if he'd even care if he knew. The laugh again. Sharp, dismissive. Nothing like the woman I'd married. "I love you too. See you at the Marriott tomorrow night. Room 412 like always." The call ended. I stood in the darkness of our hallway, listening to her move around downstairs, probably cleaning up the wine glass, erasing evidence of her evening ritual. The recording was still running on my phone, capturing my ragged breathing. When I finally stopped it, the timestamp showed 3 minutes and 47 seconds. 3 minutes that had just ended my marriage. I climbed the rest of the stairs like a ghost. Heather was humming in the kitchen, probably planning tomorrow's lies. The recording sat in my phone like a loaded weapon. By morning, I'd listened to it 12 times. Each replay carved something deeper out of me, but also crystallized my resolve. Mr. Predictable was about to become very unpredictable indeed. I deleted my emotions and began to plan. The manila folder grew thicker each day. Bank statements, hotel receipts, phone records, all the boring paperwork of betrayal. I'd become an accountant of infidelity, methodically cataloging 8 months of lies. Heather kept her routine flawless. Late meetings, client dinners, weekend conferences. I nodded and kissed her goodbye, then followed the paper trail she'd left behind. Credit card charges at restaurants I'd never heard of. Cash withdrawals that didn't match her stories. Phone calls to a number registered under Sutton's name, each one time-stamped during her supposed work hours. "You're thorough," Daryl said, reviewing my evidence over coffee. My oldest friend had the decency not to look surprised when I'd told him. "This is prosecutor-level documentation." I was always good with details. "Griffin, what are you planning to do with all this?" I slid another sheet across the table. Hotel registration records I'd obtained through a contact in the industry. "Heather Chen, room 412, every Tuesday and Thursday for 6 months. Daryl whistled low. She used her real name? Arrogant. Or maybe she wanted to get caught. I gathered the papers back into their folder. People get careless when they think they're smarter than everyone else. And Sutton? Marketing director at her company, divorced last year, lives in Bethesda. I tapped the folder. Everything's here. Dates, times, locations, even photographs. Photographs? Hotel security cameras. Turns out the Marriott keeps footage for 9 months. Daryl leaned back in his chair. Jesus, Griffin, you've built a case that could destroy her career. That's the point. Is it worth it? The revenge, I mean. You could just divorce her and move on. I thought about that laugh, the casual cruelty in her voice. Mr. Predictable. She made her choice. Now I'm making mine. The folder felt heavier walking back to my car. Not from the weight of paper, but from the weight of what came next. Revenge, I discovered, required the same skills as project management. Timeline, resources, stakeholder analysis. I approached Heather's destruction like any other professional challenge. Phase 1 was already complete. Documentation gathered, evidence verified, legal consultation scheduled. My divorce attorney had whistled at the thoroughness of my file. Your wife won't get a penny, he'd said. Adultery voids the prenup's spousal support clause. Phase 2 would be surgical. Heather's reputation had taken years to build. Senior account manager, rising star, respected by colleagues. All of it built on a foundation of trust and professional integrity. I started with her boss. An anonymous email to HR, professional tone, expressing concern about potential conflicts of interest between employees. No accusations, just questions. Let them do their own investigation. Then, her biggest client. A family values company that wouldn't appreciate their account being managed by someone conducting an affair with a colleague. Again, no direct accusations, just helpful information about their account team's personal dynamics. Social media came next. Heather loved posting about our happy marriage, our perfect life. I began documenting timestamps, cross-referencing them with her hotel visits. The contradictions would speak for themselves. "You're being methodical about this," Daryl observed during our weekly lunch. She was methodical about lying to me. There's a difference between justice and revenge. I cut my sandwich precisely in half. She chose to humiliate me for 8 months, called me pathetic, laughed about it. "So you're going to destroy her life?" "I'm going to let her choices have consequences." I met his eyes. For the first time in our marriage, there will be actual consequences for her actions. Daryl was quiet for a long moment. "What happens after? When it's all over?" I hadn't thought that far ahead. The plan ended with Heather's professional and social destruction. What came after felt like a different lifetime. "I guess I'll find out." The first domino fell on a Tuesday. Heather came home from work pale and shaken, her usual confidence replaced by something brittle. "How was your day?" I asked, not looking up from my laptop. "Fine, just tired." But I knew better. HR had called her in for questioning about her relationship with Sutton. Professional conduct review, they'd called it. Standard procedure when anonymous concerns were raised. Wednesday brought the second domino. Her biggest client requested a new account manager. No explanation given, just a polite request for reassignment. I'd sent them the hotel photographs along with a concerned note about professionalism standards. By Friday, the office gossip had started. Whispers in the break room, sideways glances in meetings. Heather's carefully cultivated image was cracking. "Griffin," she said over dinner, pushing food around her plate. "Have you heard anything strange lately? About me?" I looked up from my phone, where I'd been reviewing the next phase of releases. "Strange how?" "At work. People are acting weird." "Maybe you're imagining things." She studied my face, searching for something. "Maybe." But she wasn't imagining the hotel key card I'd left on her desk at work. Room 412, expired but unmistakable. A colleague had mentioned seeing it there, wondering what it meant. The key card was perfect. Subtle enough to maintain plausible deniability, obvious enough to raise questions. Let her wonder how it got there. Let her realize someone knew about her secret room. "I might need to work late tonight," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Of course. Important client meeting?" The flinch was almost imperceptible. "Something like that." I nodded and returned to my phone. She had no idea the meeting she was rushing to would be her last with Sutton. His wife had received an interesting package of photographs that afternoon. The key card had served its purpose. Now it would disappear, leaving only questions and paranoia in its wake. The recording played through our kitchen speakers like a confession at trial. Heather's voice, clear and damning, filled the space between us. "Griffin's working late again. Same as always. God, Sutton, I can't wait to see you tomorrow." She stood frozen by the refrigerator, wine glass halfway to her lips. The same glass, I realized, from the night I'd captured her betrayal. Mr. Predictable is too busy with his spreadsheets to notice his wife is dying inside. I stopped the playback. 6 months of this, every Tuesday and Thursday. "Griffin, I can explain. Room 412 at the Marriott. Your real name on the registration. Very thorough documentation." Her face went white. "You've been spying on me?" "I've been paying attention." Finally. I pulled out my phone, showed her the recording app. Amazing what you hear when you actually listen. How long have you known? 3 weeks. Long enough to ensure your choices have appropriate consequences. She sank into a chair. What consequences? HR investigation. Client reassignment. Sutton's wife received some interesting photographs yesterday. I kept my voice level, professional. Your career is effectively over. You bastard. You calculated bastard. Mr. Predictable, remember? Though I prefer thorough. Tears started, but they felt performative. We can work through this. Marriage counseling, therapy. There's no we anymore, Heather. There hasn't been for 8 months. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Every Tuesday and Thursday for 6 months. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. She tried a different approach. You're destroying an innocent man's marriage, too. Sutton has children. Sutton made his choice when he decided to sleep with a married woman. His children deserve better than a father who lies to their mother. The recording device sat between us on the table, a small black witness to the end of everything. I'd played it one final time, letting her hear her own words condemn her. What happens now? She whispered. Now you live with consequences. Something new for both of us. The divorce papers arrived in a thick manila envelope, delivered to Heather's new apartment across town. I'd moved out of our house the week before, leaving her to face the wreckage alone. Daryl helped me load the last boxes into my truck. How do you feel? Empty, but clean. Any regrets? I thought about it. About the marriage? Yes. About the consequences? No. Heather had resigned from her job rather than face the ethics hearing. Sutton had been transferred to their Denver office, his marriage another casualty of choices and consequences. The social circle we'd shared had quietly divided, most choosing sides based on incomplete information. She's telling people you were abusive, Daryl said carefully. Psychologically manipulative. Let her. The truth has a way of surfacing. And if it doesn't? I taped up the final box. Then I'll know I did what I thought was right, and she'll know she did what she thought was convenient. We'll both live with those choices. The envelope of evidence sat in my truck's glove compartment, no longer needed. The photographs, bank records, hotel receipts, all the careful documentation of betrayal. I'd considered burning it, but that felt too dramatic. Instead, I drove to Heather's new place and left it by her door. No note, no explanation. Just the complete record of her choices, returned to their author. She called that night, voice raw from crying. Why did you leave this? Because it belongs to you. Your choices, your consequences, your evidence. I never meant for it to go this far. You meant for it to continue indefinitely. The only thing you didn't mean was to get caught. Griffin, I loved you. You loved the security I provided. There's a difference. The line went quiet, except for her breathing. What happens to us now? There is no us. There's you, living with your choices, and there's me, learning to live with mine. I hung up and turned off my phone. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new possibilities. Tonight, I just wanted silence. 6 months later, I found myself in a coffee shop downtown, reading a book instead of checking my phone. Simple pleasures felt revolutionary after years of hypervigilance. Griffin? I looked up to see Sarah from my old office, someone I'd barely known during my marriage. Sarah, hi. Mind if I sit? I heard about the divorce. I'm sorry. Don't be. Best thing that happened to me. She studied my face. You look different. Calmer. Turns out living honestly is less exhausting than I thought. We talked for an hour. About books, travel plans, the small details of rebuilding a life. When she mentioned dinner sometime, I surprised myself by saying yes. Walking home, I passed the Marriott. Room 412 was probably occupied by different secrets now, different choices playing out behind its anonymous door. I felt nothing looking at it. No anger, No satisfaction, just acknowledgement of a chapter closed. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Saw the engagement announcement. Congratulations. You deserve happiness. H. Heather had moved to Portland, started over in nonprofit work. Lower pay, smaller scope, but honest work. Sutton had apparently reconciled with his wife after extensive counseling. Everyone finding their own version of consequence and redemption. I deleted the text without responding. Some conversations belonged to the past. The keycard from that night was long gone, discarded with all the other artifacts of my calculated revenge. But its lesson remained. Actions have consequences, choices have prices, and sometimes the most radical thing you can do is simply stop accepting lies. At home, I made dinner for one and called it perfect. Tomorrow, Sarah and I would try dinner for two. Small steps toward something honest, something real. The recording device sat in my desk drawer, a reminder of the night everything changed. Not a weapon anymore, just evidence of growth. Sometimes you have to document the end of one story before you can begin writing the next. I closed the drawer and started planning tomorrow instead.